Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live webinar, Franchise Pathways to U.S. Visas for Canadians and International Entrepreneurs. I have two wonderful guests with me today that I'm going to introduce in a bit. And before we get fully started, we're going to wait for everybody to join. We already have around 40 people here and 120 people registered, so we're waiting for more people to come in. Where are you joining us from? Let's see those locations. Victoria from Windsor. Hi, Victoria. Thanks for joining. More people are typing. This is a really nice topic that we have today. It's for Canadian immigration professionals, but today we're talking about the US. So it's a nice little twist that I'm sure a lot of you are going to enjoy. Edmonton, Toronto, Oakville, Ontario. Hi, Diana. Hi, Faraj. Oshawa. Hi, Kola. Vancouver, Calgary. Yes, so many familiar names indeed. Wonderful. Okay, 50 people already there. Let's see. Oakville again. Nice. So, for people who are just joining, good morning. This is our live webinar from Joorney, Canada, Franchise Pathways to US Visas for Canadian and International Entrepreneurs. Like I was saying, this is a little bit of a twist into what we usually talk about in Joorney, Canada. Instead of talking about Canadian visas and programs, today we're going to talk about US visas and also how the franchise pathway can help and a few resources for you to be able to find opportunities for your clients, for Canadian clients, and also from for clients that are looking into North America. Okay, let's get started. So hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Franchise Pathways to US Visas, a growth opportunity for Canadian immigration professionals. My name is Marianela Mansour. I'm a partner and director of sales here at Joorney. And as usual, I'm excited to be your host for today's session. While we get settled, I'll quickly introduce Joorney for those of you who may be new to us. At Joorney, we take care of preparing business plans for immigration purposes. We started doing it originally from the US. We started in 2013, and then we started in Canada in 2017. We currently cover all visas or programs that require or need a business plan. And our goal is to help international entrepreneurs succeed by making sure the business plan is well presented for immigration purposes. Now, if you've been working in Canadian business immigration lately, you've likely seen program delays, increased refusal rates, and fewer options for your clients. These may be very frustrating times for the industry, to be super honest. However, it might also create a window of opportunity. And that's what brings us here today. More and more Canadian immigration professionals are turning to the US as an option, either for their already Canadian citizen clients or for their clients abroad trying to come to North America and not seeing options in Canada directly, as I was mentioning. Additionally, we see many franchise models as a viable path for clients, especially paired with the E-2 visa, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, and also other US visas as well. The franchise approach is an approach that's gaining traction fast, and also the US options for Canadian citizens and also people abroad that were originally looking into Canada. And this way can help you offer more to both Canadian and international clients while you also the applicants also grow their business in the process. To help us understand how this strategy works and how to make it work for your clients, we're joined today with Patrick Pindaro, co-founder of Visa Franchise, and Gerald Padilla, VP of Sales at Joorney. So I'm going to highlight them a little bit while I speak about them. Hi, Patrick. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me on.
Wonderful. Yes, we're happy to. With Visa Franchise, Patrick has helped hundreds of investors and entrepreneurs find the right franchise fit for U.S. immigration. Their team brings a deep understanding of both franchising and immigration, and Patrick is here to walk us through how Canadian professionals can integrate this offering into their service. And now I'll highlight Gerald, our VP of Sales. Gerald has helped countless international entrepreneurs enter the US and Canada with deep expertise in US immigration. He's the ideal person to discuss business plan requirements for franchise based immigration pathways and more. Patrick and Gerald, thank you both for joining us today.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody.
How are we feeling today?
Doing
Good?
well. Excited to try to help some Canadians or people that maybe were thinking about moving to Canada, but offering the U.S. as a potential alternative.
Wonderful. I'm happy that you're both here today. Just a quick note before we begin. If you have any questions at any point during the session, feel free to drop them into the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen, and then we'll save them at the end for Q&A. Okay? So let's get started. Patrick, let's start with you. I would love for you to briefly introduce Visa Franchise and what your core services are.
Sure. Thanks, Marianella. So my brother and I, Jack, started Visa Franchise a decade ago, back in 2015. I was working at a fund that was providing investments in the franchising space, and our limited partners were EB-5 investors. So now the investment amount's 800K minimum. Back then it was 500K. And my brother working at Burger King, or rather the parent company in Miami, we discovered the E-2 visa program, and we thought it made a lot of sense for franchises, as the franchisor provides the brand, the training. It's kind of a business in a box, you could say, to make a smoother transition stateside. So that was kind of the impetus to Visa Franchise, offering a more economical solution for people to move to the United States faster. And we laser focused on the E-2 visa. Since then, we've worked across different visa categories, but still about 75-80% of our clients are seeking the E-2 visa through a franchise. So our core service is helping people buy a franchise to then obtain the E-2 visa, but we also help other entrepreneurs with their endeavors moving to the U.S., including through their own independent business. So that's a little bit about us. We're a 25-person company. We speak, I think it's 7 languages now, and we help well over 100 clients every year make the move to the United States.
Amazing, Patrick. And you have a lot of expertise. You've been doing this for how many years now?
So I've been helping foreigners invest in the U.S. for 15 years, starting at JP Morgan. And then under Visa Franchise, which I'm a partner of for 10 years. We started the company in 2015. And important to note, Joorney was one of our early partners. So I think Joorney probably have done, I would guess, 300 to 400 plus business plans for our clients.
Approximately,
and
yes.
You were a really strategic early partner when we didn't really know, as much as we know today. Clients maybe getting denied or hard RFEs. And I remember one that did property management invested $42,000. And I said, hey, Joorney, dig into your business plans. And you guys sure enough went through 50 plus real estate related E-2 visa business plans, and we're able to work together with the filing attorney to overcome the denial. So appreciate you guys as a partner, and look forward to helping more people together, making the U.S. dream their reality.
Definitely, Patrick. Thank you for that. And it's reciprocal indeed. So we're really happy to be working with you for years, and we refer Visa Franchise for all clients looking for franchises in the U.S. So it's been a really, really nice partnership. So in order for our attendees to understand more about what you do or who you offer the core services to, what types of clients do you typically work with, and what are their primary goals when moving to the U.S.?
Yeah, for sure. So I prefer clients that are going to be actively involved in the business and are going to really take ownership over what business they choose to invest in, the hours they allocate, their kind of visa path. we're here to guide you, and we'll work together to help you select the right franchise for you and your family and obtain the US visa. And then working together with Joorney, potentially getting a green card. We can talk about that through some of the talent categories. We've had quite a lot of success with clients upgrading to a green card category after the E2. But I want clients that are willing to invest, before the interview, having spent 70K, 80K, maybe another 20, 30K plus in the business bank account. And then you should also have another, say, 40, 50K and just personal savings to sustain your family, especially if your spouse isn't working or if you don't have additional income to live off of. So that's my ideal client, someone that has a upper level of English, advanced English, was willing to work hard. It could be 30, 50-hour weeks for the first 18 months. And then after that, it scales down. We do have some select opportunities that you can invest 200K plus and work less hours day to day. But those opportunities tend to be more risky, as no one cares as much about the business success as the actual investor entrepreneur.
Exactly. That's very interesting. And I think that clarifies a lot so that folks who are listening today, they realize who is the right target for the services indeed. And this specifically is talking about the E2, correct?
Exactly. And we can talk about maybe some of the other visa categories later, but for the E2 visa, they should have a treaty passport. So it's all of Western Europe, much of Latin America, many countries in Asia. Non-E2 countries include the BRICS, so Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, the Vietnam. Those are some of the notable non-E2 visa countries. Countries like Pakistan have it, Bangladesh, Egypt, Canada, Mexico. I'll share actually the link on the State Department website so that those that are tuned in can see the full list of E2 visa countries. And based on that, that's generally the best first step for those that want to move to the US through the franchise visa program.
Wonderful. Yes, feel free to share that on the chat so everybody can check because we have a lot of consultants and lawyers that have clients from all over the world right now. So that's the starting point, especially for the E2. Now, a question for Gerald. We're seeing increased interest from Canadian consultants and lawyers with the U.S. immigration alternatives for their clients. How are you noticing this, and what do you think is driving it?
And thank you, Marianella. And again, thank you, Patrick, for attending. I know we've known each other a long time and happy to be on this with you. Well, as far as a trend of Canadians coming to the US, it seems like they're very motivated by I guess, basically the market size and the ability to be taxed a little bit less or a lot less, I should say, and that it's really commercially conducive to businesses. We're really friendly when it comes to opening businesses in the US. I mean, compared, at least this is feedback that I receive from clients, that they have less taxes, there's less regulation. And again, more opportunity because the market size. And so there's more areas that they can go in. A lot of them are coming down to Florida or Texas's of America, just because, again, there's no state tax here and they can really make a good living marketing their different products and services. So I see a trend as far as also some of them may not agree with the political administration there in Canada and their their values and whatnot. So yeah, we get a lot of clients coming down just for a new opportunity, sometimes even for just a fresh start in the US because they've worked so hard in Canada. Maybe they work for a specific company there in Canada or around the world, and they've learned enough skills so that they want to start their own business in the US and carry that over.
Exactly. Thank you, Gerald. And we're seeing this also on the consultants and lawyers side, right? Because they're thinking, okay, there are a lot of programs in Canada that have been canceled, shut down, delayed, and then you have these clients that are saying, I want to come to North America. Maybe they wanted originally to go through Canada, and then suddenly they want to go, they want to get an option, right? So then they're thinking, okay, is US an option for me? So we're seeing a lot of questions also from our partner clients saying, okay, what can I offer my client towards the US, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why we also decided to have this webinar. So in order to talk a little bit about the visas themselves, let's talk about the E2, the EB-2 NIW, and the O-1. Like, what are the main requirements and considerations from your standpoint, Patrick? We understand that you're not a lawyer, but you work with these visas a lot. So out of experience, you can give us a high-level approach of what's expected regarding the requirements.
Sure. And an important note, we talked a little bit about the E2 visa. There's no minimum threshold. You have to invest a substantial amount of capital. We've had approvals as low as 60K invested. We offer a money back guarantee on our services if they commit 100K or more, and they're willing to apply a couple of times in case there's an initial denial. I can share more information on our money back guarantee policy as well. But we basically take it a step further than the actual requirements for the E2 to really ensure and maintain our final visa approval rate at 97.5% over the last 10 years. So say, substantial amount invested, you get a visa for up to 5 years. So depending on the country, Bangladesh, for example, because they don't give Americans a 5-year visa. If I wanted to open up a company and move to Bangladesh, Egypt, a few other countries just give a 3-month visa. So I can effectively enter in and stay legally for, say, a 2-year period, but I can't be traveling in and out. So the US has a reciprocity schedule that they often check and fluctuate up and down. Mexico, as you two probably know, was at a year. Now I think it's 4 years. Australia was 4 years. Now I think it's 5 years. Chile was 5 years, went down to 1. So it's something important to monitor. And if your client has multiple passports, it's important to see, because they have different reciprocity schedules. And depending on how they acquired their passport, or if they're from the UK, for example, there are domicile requirements. But effectively, treaty country, invest the money, have a kick-ass business plan with Joorney to show how the financial projections are, how the job creation is going to be. And
50% ownership?
50% or more ownership. And I think that's kind of, focus on the business. If the business is solid, you're going to get the visa.
Yes, exactly. And what you said before, Patrick, it needs to be an active investment when we're talking about the E2 visa, right?
Correct.
Because we
just
get
buy
a lot of,
stocks.
exactly.
It's got to be creating jobs. So whether that be 1099, that's a tax form for contractors in the United States, or W-2, the tax form for employees, there needs to be job creation. So ideally, there's already a couple people hired, or soon after being approved for the visa, you're hiring Americans. But it's, investing in the U.S., contributing to the local economy. So that's the E2 in a nutshell. And there's the O-1, which is a talent visa. You got to meet 3 of 8 criteria. We also have an agency that we act and provide business management support for those that are looking to be entrepreneurs or other talented STEM professionals in the United States. Less applicable for franchises. And then you had also mentioned the notes, the EB-2 NIW, which you have very extensive experience on, having done thousands of business plans, professional plans for those. And that is a transition and an option to go from investing in a franchise to then going to EB-2 NIW. That's about a 3-year path to obtain a green card through self-petition. And you have to meet certain criteria, and based on your background as an accomplished professional or entrepreneur. And there's also the EB-1A, which we're having more recent success with. And as long as you weren't born in India or China, it's more of a 12 to 18 month total process to obtain the green card. So I always say, focus on the business. You're going to secure the E2 visa. People that don't secure it, usually they had some personal problems that might have not been disclosed to the consulate officer or us prior to the application. But if it's a solid business, you should get approved the first time. We'll guarantee financially that you get approved the second time, or we'll give you our service fee back as long as you meet our criteria. So the E2 is a very solid start. If someone's from China, Vietnam, Brazil, maybe there's no E2 treaty. We've had about 40 clients, including with Joorney, that they did the L1 visa. So say they're from India and they have a 20-person company in India, and they have revenue of above $1 million, and they have a nice balance sheet with cash on it. They're making at least $100K a year from the business. We can go find a franchise that you can open from zero or potentially acquire and transfer yourself as an executive, a key employee to the US entity. So that's happened with closely held businesses. We definitely prefer E2 as it's more straightforward, generally a 5-year visa, as opposed to L1 where they just give it for initial 1 year if they're opening up a new business, or 3 years for an existing. And a 1-year visa, I don't have to tell those dealing with Canada, the Canadian immigration agents, it's kind of tough if you get 1 year, 1.5, 2 years. There's a lot of pressure. So we really like the E2, especially for those treaties where they give a 5-year visa to really show that the business is working. And then within that period, if your client desires, if you're a Canadian investor or you're on an E2 visa and you desire to get a green card, usually there's a way to get a green card in that period.
Exactly. And also to add to that, for Canadians, the ICT is very similar. So the L1 is an intra-company transfer to the US, basically, except for a few recent changes that have been there. That in Canada, it's a little bit different because you need to be in 2 countries abroad before going into Canada now for certain situations. But in the US, it's like the old ICT, let's say, just for a clearer picture. So yes, basically we have E2, EB-2 NIW, O-1, EB-1 that you mentioned, and the L1 as well that you were mentioning. So let's start talking about the E2 visa. I mean, you've spoken about what makes it a popular choice, but we would like to know more about what industries or franchise models tend to work best for that type of visa.
So it's very popular. There's over 50,000 E2 visas issued every year. To give perspective, Canada alone, thousands. So it's a very popular option to move to the United States. It's a proven path, and there are consulate staffers, including one that we've hired at a company, that have reviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of E2 visa petitions. So it's something that the U.S. government is comfortable with. And they know, especially if you apply at a consulate that does a lot of volume, like Toronto, you're not the first person coming across their desk asking for this visa category. So it's a very popular visa. In terms of industries and our tenor over the last decade, we've changed a little bit from clients investing more in brick and mortar type businesses, like say an ice cream shop, or it could be a physical tutoring center, more to service-based businesses that don't necessarily take the client within their storefront, but you provide a service where the customer lives, where the business is. So that could be residential cleaning, commercial cleaning, that could be in-home senior care. But there are some great retail models, including insurance, for example, that you can open for as little as $60,000, $70,000. So industries our clients usually invest in, mostly service type of industries. Ideally, you invest in a business that you're kind of used to and you don't change. So if you're doing B2B sales and you're selling software to Fortune 500 companies, we should focus on something that leverages that skill set. Or maybe you've been managing a team of 100 people and it's medical professionals. Well, that's great. Let's look at in-home care because you can really scale it up and you should be able to make a ton of money managing a pretty complex organization where there could be 50, 100, 200 caregivers operating in a certain geography.
Yeah, so transferable skills. That's something really nice about your service, Patrick, where that's what you do initially. You analyze the profile of that entrepreneur and then you match it with the franchise where you consider it can have more success, correct?
Definitely. And 88% of our clients are entrepreneurs, but they could be first time, whether this is their first time they're investing in a franchise, or they could be established entrepreneurs. So maybe you're coming from Canada and you have a small service-based business, but you don't know the US market, and going into a franchise system in that same service or another service that has higher profit margins might make sense for you.
Exactly. Okay, so we work together with Visa Franchise in many of these E2s. On the Joorney level, basically, Gerald can also talk about this, but basically we have around 15,000 to 2,000 business plans that we do for E2s a year. And I think I may be saying a lower number, but there are many business plans that we do for E2s. From our experience, Gerald, and we know that the E2 doesn't have a specific investment, but where do you see that range? Like Patrick mentioned his range also from his experience, but what do we see on our entrepreneurs with E2 visas regarding investment?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. Of course, we work with maybe about 200 law firms across the US, and each lawyer kind of has their own preferences depending upon their risk aversity. So I'm a little bit more conservative, a little bit more risky. But generally speaking, of course, we'll always kind of follow their guidance because they're the legal experts. But we usually see investments anywhere, I mean, as low, because each business also takes different amounts of investment. So substantial investment is kind of a gray area. Some businesses, such as consulting businesses, just need a phone and a desk and a computer in order to run. Whereas if you're running a retail business or a restaurant and whatnot, of course, you're going to need inventory, a brick and mortar space, and a larger investment because you're going to need a larger staff. So there's, again, no defined what is substantial investment. But the ranges being usually at lower thresholds is around 50K, gets a little bit more risky. I always see, from my perspective, the closer you get to about a $100,000 investment, the stronger your case gets, and above that, even stronger. Some bonus points there. But again, the key is to E2s is having that positive impact on the U.S. economy, creating those jobs, getting enough revenue from your business that it's not marginal and you're paying out taxes back to the U.S. That has impact back to the U.S. You're not just creating a lemonade stand on the corner, but you're actually generating enough revenue that gets paid back to the U.S. And they say, okay, great. And when it comes to a franchise, they can really look back at other franchises comparables and say, oh, this franchise does X in this location. So that means it will probably generate this many jobs in this location and this much tax revenue in this location, because there's some historical figures there they can compare to. And it's a little bit more stable of an investment because you have the backing of a franchise. The business model is already solidified and it's proven. The proof of concept is there. So the E2 is a little bit more straightforward, and the money at risk, I would say, with a franchise model is a little less at risk.
Yeah, there's certain franchises where we can structure it where the full franchise fee or half the franchise fee is contingent on the E2 visa being approved, as well as, potentially it's like a painting franchise and you buy a vehicle. That could be $50,000 right there. And if you have to turn around and sell it tomorrow after you drive it off the lot, especially if it's used, maybe you lose 2K, 3K,
Exactly.
no more than 5K. So there's ways that we can limit the investment risk. But if you want to limit the investment risk in certain consulates based on our experience, you increase the immigration risk. So if everything's in escrow and you're applying in certain markets, say we've had this experience in Egypt, Pakistan, it's easier for the consulate officer to deny, as they know you're just going to get the money back and they're on their way. Where if you're fully committed, So, we usually weigh it where there's accounting, tax, there's immigration, and then there's, what makes the most business sense.
Exactly.
We'll work with the right professionals to give the investor the information they need to take their own decision. But it's a balance between what makes the most business sense, what makes the most sense from an immigration perspective, and then what's like, your risk tolerance in terms of the investment side or the accounting and financial side.
Exactly. And it varies across the board. No, there are lawyers that on our side, they say if you're not investing more than 100K, I'm not taking it, and I expect that you have at risk at least 50% of that. So there are some U.S. lawyers that are a little bit more specific at what risk they want to take on the immigration strategy themselves. And I guess that comes back to you, Patrick, as well on the money back guarantee, right? You're also lowering that risk for people who are
Yeah,
willing to invest.
we underwrite our own risk, and
Exactly.
they're comfortable or there are attorneys in our network that are comfortable, and we see eye to eye. And if you invest 100K, you have $1,000 or more of revenue, you haven't had any you have a clean criminal record, no prior U.S. immigration violations, the chance of you getting approved are pretty damn high.
Exactly, for sure. Okay, I have a question for both of you. Let's start with Gerald. How does the business plan demonstrate franchise viability to the U.S. Immigration officers?
Sure. So business plan is extremely important. It really contains your vision on what you plan to do for the next 5 years. You want to make that immigration officer and U.S. immigration as comfortable as possible with your application. To do that, you want to illustrate the positive impact on the U.S. economy that you and your investment will have, which essentially means, again, how many jobs you'll create over the next 5 years, how much tax revenue will be paid back to the U.S. from those jobs and revenues you generate, and how you've allocated and expensed that substantial investment of yours. And so in our business plans, it will clearly show kind of the 5-year plan. We'll create 5-year financial projections so that we can show the profit and loss and how much tax revenue is paid back. We'll also create a 5-year hiring plan to show those jobs over the next 5 years. We'll back that up and support those projections by doing actual market research and industry analysis on the business that they choose and the location. We have access to databases that gives those kind of statistics that will support the forecast that we create, so they make sense to show that the business has a niche in the market. Because they have a niche in the market, they're going to have clients. Because they have clients, they'll be in demand and they'll reach these forecasts. Also clearly illustrating where they've expensed and allocated that substantial investment, how much they have in the bank, because that's very important to the U.S. on where they've spent everything and if they've spent everything. Of course, on the back end, the lawyers will work and create those supporting documents as evidence to back up what we're stating in the business plan. But the business plan is really going to be kind of that first impression that you're going to show that immigration officer, that they're going to look through, understand the basics of the operations and the profile of the applicant, in which we will also talk about the profile of the applicant in the business plan, their experience, why they're business savvy enough or skilled enough to run this endeavor and reach those forecasts that we create. And then, of course, the center of the business plan also is going to be on what are the products and services of this business, how they're going to make money, what are they offering, what's their location. So in the end, the business plan is around 30 to 40 pages plus, comes with everything that they'll need for the E2 as far as business plan requirements. And we normally work very closely with the lawyers that our clients choose and collaborate with them, because it's very important that we also tell the story that from a legal point of view and align the narrative within the business plan to their immigration strategy. So they'll be highly involved throughout so that they can make sure we're just telling the story that they want us to tell.
I think it's important to note too that you have great experience in terms of adjusting to different consulates, as certain consulates have certain page limits. So, what you choose together with the attorney to keep in, if the business plan is going to be just 10, 20 pages as opposed to 40 pages, it's really a key judgment call that you only gain through experience.
Exactly. Um, you mentioned something about approval rates at the beginning, Patrick. I wonder what trends you're seeing with E2 adjudications recently. You can
Sure.
maybe give us an idea of Canada, but also some of the other citizenships that people may be coming from, let's say Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Egypt. If
Definitely.
maybe it varies. What are you seeing?
Yeah. So being fully transparent, our first time approval rates 87%, and those apply again. They get approved at a higher threshold. So 97.5 is for people that are willing to apply twice. So we do have some denials. We had 2 denials in London, and I don't know if you heard that, but they took away their E2 visa desk. So our clients are coming in January, February, and there were consulate officers that weren't familiar with E2, were confused, why through a franchise. I thought it's for, essential employees, and just some strange trends in London, I would say. Um, in Canada, the time to get the appointments fluctuated a lot. Where we go back over the past couple of years, it's been anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months to be able to secure the appointment. I think right now it's about 2 months to obtain an appointment in Toronto. So it's been pretty smooth sailing
Okay.
with Trump's second administration. I think also, our clients, they're fully committed. I mean, they're signing a franchise agreement for 10 years. We make sure, working with you guys, a business plan is accurately portrays and realistic based on the historic financials disclosed by the franchisor across their, hundreds of franchisees. So we're able to provide those financials, and the E2 visa applicant going in the interview can back that up, bring in the franchise disclosure document and showing, item 7, this is the initial investment that franchisees should make. This is what I've done to start the business. And then item 19, these are the historical financials. So, I have heard it's a little more straightforward, and that's been our experience over the last 10 years with a franchise investment for the E2 visa. They can
Exactly.
Google it. They can see the brand. They can see people have done it before. It's less of a question, oh, is this really going to actually happen? Is he going to commit to it? Because they're signing a contract, and there's been, maybe 50, 100, 1,000 other franchisees doing it. But overall, it's been pretty smooth sailing for E2 visas. It's like every day we get an approval in some consulate around the world. So recent
Exactly.
approvals in Mexico, New Zealand, Canada.
Yeah.
Um, We've had a few blips on the radar, but it's been pretty minor. Like I mentioned, the
Mhm.
UK, and I'm very confident those will be overcome.
Okay, okay, perfect. Yes, it's interesting because franchises are an option. I mean, not only in the US, in Canada as well, for people who have not been entrepreneurs before and they don't have experience in that particular country. So it's a way to receive some guidance on the business, right? So in a way, it's a little bit of a safer bet than opening your own business. So probably officers are seeing that as well.
Yeah, we have a
And
video
yeah.
coming out, Marianelle, from someone that came down from Canada in 2 weeks. I just shot it. But he opened up a residential cleaning franchise, and it's like less than 6 months in, and he already has 8 employees and is on track to, hit 30, 40K of revenue by the end of the year. And it's a business that has a pretty high gross profit margin. So it allows you to really hit the ground running, where you can rely hard on that brand rather than just opening up an independent business that, no one knows who you are, even though you might be really good at your trade.
Exactly. Definitely. Okay, so that's on the E2 visa. For those on the Canadian side that are listening, if you have practiced for a while now, the E2 visa reminds me on the Canadian side of what used to be the LMIA owner operator. The requirements are somewhat similar, and the business plan structure that we created for the LMIA owner operator was similar to the E2. So just for you to maybe wrap around your head around a link there. And now let's talk about the EB-2 NIW. How do entrepreneurs qualify for this type of visa? And then we can talk about a little bit about the business plan specifically for EB-2 NIW.
So for us, we have a lot more experience with EB-2 NIW is when people already are in the United States on the E2 or O-1. And as a requirement for the EB-2 NIW, you have to have a proposed endeavor. I like to just cut out the propose and our clients show the endeavor. Hey, I started this in-home care business. We service 50 seniors. We have, X number of caregivers. We're making $1 million a year. We're taking home 200K. We're paying this amount in taxes. This is of national importance. We're working with vendors across the country. We're helping these seniors that really need critical care. So we prefer to have our clients apply for the EB-2 NIW when they've already proven themselves in the United States and they're asking for a green card. They've earned the right to ask for the green card. Where we don't have as much experience with people applying from abroad for the first time with a green card. But for those that are already working here, seeking work as an entrepreneur or professional, we're very confident in helping them if they hit the right profile and they have a really great endeavor, as well as an advanced degree, or as an alternative, they have worked as an entrepreneur for 10 years and we can clearly show that.
Exactly. So basically proof of concept after the E2, and then those who qualify can go to phase 2.
Yeah, we have a lot of denials. The denial rate's gone way up for EB-2 NIWs. I think it's like 40% denial rate. So you compare that to 10% denial rate for E2s. So sadly, we have a lot of people that tried, especially like from Brazil, and they also have an Italian passport. So they got denied the EB-2 NIW. Maybe they even tried twice, but they don't do any business in the United States. So I can kind of see why they were denied, because they're trying to sell the consulate officer on a vision of something that they're going to do, and they're already asking for kind of the top thing, the green card. Where I'm of the opinion that you should prove yourself here first. Could be through us with a franchise, could be your own business, could be on, some other visa category like H-1B, TN, and then ask for the big benefit after you've proven yourself here for some time.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, the EB-2 NIW is a very particular type of visa. Currently, I mean, out of, again, the 7,000 that we do business plans a year, I would say around 4,000 of those are EB-2 NIWs for us.
That's a lot.
And yes, and that particular visa self-petition is wanting for people who apply to have national importance, for them to have to waive job offer and all those details. Of course, I'll let the lawyers talk about that more. And I think Gerald wants to also do a webinar on the Canadian side, specifically with EB-2 NIW. We can do that as well. But there's potential there for people who have a particular set of skills and that they're going to bring a national interest.
I mentioned senior care. We've had success with real estate, especially for certain underprivileged groups, serving poorer communities, healthy food. So, we have experience with our franchisee clients, but those that are in particular industries, as well as high job creation. But I'd be curious to hear from you two. What would make your job easier with a EB-2 NIW, business plan, where you're doing the business plan, together with the attorney, and you're like, oh, this guy is probably going to get it. What would you want to see?
Oh, we would like to see a lot. So, for example, the fact that it's national importance, of course. And just again, a highlight on the Canadian side, this is more like a significant benefit, basically. It's a little bit of a similar concept. The skills needs to be really extraordinary. That's one specific thing. And the proposed endeavor, or the project that they're doing in the US, can not only be like, I'm a dentist and I'm going to be a dentist there. No, there needs to be more impact. There needs to be impact depending on the location where you're going to serve people. There needs to be impact maybe on a technology or a particular service that you've built in the past that you can then implement and spread so that you can contribute to the US in that way. So we're looking for that edge. It needs to be something more. It can't just be your regular skill or your regular field. There needs to be a big impact. And I think Gerald can help me here as well.
Uh, yeah. Of course, we've had quite a bit of uptick when it comes to the EB-2 NIW in the recent 3 to 4 years, and have found quite a bit of success. And I'll also kind of agree with Patrick that definitely it creates more of a stable floor if you do have an established business already in the US and that you have historical success and you can draw on that and say, hey, I now want to kind of get to that second level, as you said, and move on, and just kind of a continuation from their E2 is definitely a good strategy instead of just fresh to the EB2. But when it comes to a successful endeavor, which is what an EB2 business usually is called technically, it's about bringing some sort of innovation to the market, something that's and bringing skills that are exceptional, that you're not just a regular common off the street dentist, somebody who's a little bit more specialized. So cosmetic dental work on specific, parts of, I'm not a dental expert, but something that's very specialized and very niche, in that they are exceptional among their industry group, among their colleagues. Also, of course, contributing to economically depressed areas certainly helps. So if you're helping, one of our past clients is creating dollar stores, Dollar Generals in very, very low income neighborhoods. And so instead of, or in cities, so it doesn't create that, he's helping lower income cities. So he's giving them jobs in that area. He's also giving them resources so they have a place to go get their groceries and their goods. So that can be argued as, again, economically depressed and kind of innovative. But also you want to be able to not just help one specific community and somebody in that immediate circle, but that this can be applied universally throughout the US and maybe even duplicated or replicated as far as that model to help more than just the direct community around you. So a national level impact. When it comes to the EB2, there's really those three prongs that you need to answer. Do you have the skills, the merit? Are you well positioned? Which really having that franchise, bringing in Patrick again, shows that you're well positioned and you have been taking steps towards your endeavor because you actually do already have a business that's already generating jobs, already paying out taxes back to the US. Now it's about having that third prong, which is the national level impact, which is, again, not just affecting your community, but the nation as a whole, and bringing some kind of skills or services that might contribute to that national level importance.
Thank you, Gerald. Okay, so Patrick, you also mentioned that the O-1 visa is something that you sometimes work with. Is that related to franchises in any way, or it's more individual occasions where the extraordinary ability context
more
applies?
individual, like entrepreneurs that are maybe doing their own investment. I'd have to think, maybe going back, there might be some that like set up a family office that a franchise was a component of it.
Okay. Understood. So yes, the biggest one, the most popular one, the E2, definitely. EB-2 NIW, Patrick uses it for proven models, basically. A few O1s could be also opportunities for people in Canada and abroad. And then the L1, as I was mentioning, intra-company transfer. Let's talk a little bit more about the business investment trends that you're currently seeing in the US and also popular franchise models before we get into also the details of how Canadian professionals can reach out to you about your services.
Yeah, definitely. So I think what we're seeing in the US is there's a lot of internal migration that's still happening, kind of post-COVID, where a lot of people moved down to Florida, but now are moving back to the New York area or moving up to the Carolinas. but you still have a lot of international migration that's coming to Florida, picking up that gap. So those demographic trends are just things to be mindful of, as well as the cost, where you decide to set up for the business, your family's cost, like where we are, Miami has gotten much more expensive over the last, 13, 14 years, where, unless your spouse is going to have a job in Miami, it might make sense to move a little further north, to Broward County or to the west coast of Florida, because you opening up a franchise, you will probably net the same amount of money, if not more, in some of these smaller cities. So those are some of the trends where I think people are being more mindful of where they move to, and we can help them with providing the data of where it's not just the best place to open up the business for 2025 or 2026, but over the next 5 years, where does it make sense for you and your family to live? And adding up all the cost. And I don't know if you two know, I'm just finalizing my second book, Own Your American Dream. And a big part of that is going through the family aspect and understanding healthcare cost and, the differences between these cities. So I think our clients are much more mindful of that, and they're moving all over the place. We just finished, I think, 10 different client interviews in Idaho, South Carolina, west coast of Florida, Houston, Texas. So it's a lot more varied than we had in the past, where it was a lot Central Florida, South Florida, a little bit California. So the United States is a big area. And I think spend time too in the United States to discover. And that's been a trend with remote work, where our clients can actually spend 1, 2, 3 months really discovering where they might want to set up the business and move their family before pulling the trigger.
Exactly. And you've seen a variety of locations, Patrick. And what about franchises? Is it as varied, or
Pretty
you're
varied.
seeing more of a certain type?
We've reviewed financial information on 3,600 franchises. So that's 3,600 franchises where we have financial information, franchise disclosure documents, and we've identified 450 that are E-2 visa friendly, eligible. And of those, about 70 we're comfortable with referring clients to, where we think it makes economic sense for the right investor to own and operate that set franchise. And of course, you need to validate it with existing franchisees. Don't just take our word for it. But it's pretty varied, there's no franchise that's more than I think I did the study recently. I think it was 8%. There's no franchise that represents more than 8% of our clients.
Okay. So it's certainly very varied as well. Same as location, for sure.
Yeah. And years back, there might be one franchise that was 25, 30% of our clients. But exactly. We've also advanced. We've built a much bigger portfolio, and we've improved at effectively being a matchmaker.
Wonderful. Okay, so one of the big questions of everybody who's listening is how can a Canadian professional, either a consultant or a lawyer, offer these U.S. Options for their clients through Visa franchise?
Yeah, so we've created a one-stop shop effectively, where we do as much legally in-house as well as what's up to our expertise. And then we bring in the professionals when needed to fill in the gaps. So we offer a comprehensive solution to move to the United States, where, it's basically oftentimes structured where the Canadian investor will sign a contract with Visa franchise, and then we pay out the vendors and we'll pay the attorney, and then the investor has a separate attorney client agreement where they're represented by that attorney. Of course, if you already have an attorney, we're happy to work with them, and we'll focus just on the franchise search and analysis. But we're able to basically package everything together, and that allows us to have more controls in terms of service delivery when they receive, when they're going to receive the franchise report, how long it's going to take them to invest in the business, obtain the visa. And it provides us a degree of flexibility too, where if you're a Canadian immigration agent, that we can provide you compensation from both our service fees as well as a fee that we receive when we place a client into the franchise system.
Exactly. And I mean, we will share on the chat all the information, contact information of Patrick, and then you can discuss it. But I mean, there are different ways that that could work,
Yeah,
and
you
I'm
can't
sure.
share legal fees in the United States. Lawyers are not allowed to share legal fees. That's a big no-no.
Yes, and there are limitations on the Canadian side as well, so I'm sure that's where the questions are coming from. So,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm sure there's a
So we're
way.
not a law firm. We do have an attorney in-house that works with us full time, but we do work with a network of filing attorneys that support with the strategy and the filing for the E2 visa. And then we complement that with a team, including an ex-U.S. consulate staffer that's working with you on the filing of the E2 visa and the attorney outside counsel.
Patrick, I don't know if you're comfortable, but would you like to share a range on professional fees, like for example on the E2, or do you rather have that individually with people who reach out?
That's fine. Like as of today, for the entire bundle, it's generally coming in about $12K if you pay over time, and then we offer a discount if you pay out front.
Okay.
And then we work with some select migration agents, immigration agents that provide above and beyond service. So that might be, translation support, helping people move countries, like with the relocation, and we actually become part of their package. So they might charge a higher fee and provide additional services, and we're subcontracted out. So we are happy to basically be in the background, at least initially, providing the services to your clients. Most of the relationships we have, though, they start slow, and it's more on a referral basis.
Exactly, that makes sense. How long does the E2 process typically take from start to finish, from your experience, Patrick?
3 to 6 months. It can be 8 months, depending on some consulates.
Okay.
That's from the time they engage us and we onboard them. We usually, once they sign our agreement, make the initial payment, we have a video onboard call within 2 business days. And from there, 3 to 6 months. Some consulates are even longer, but we also provide the option to apply at a third, another country. You might have to take a plane, but we know consulate posts that you don't have to be a national from that country or a resident of that country to be able to apply from.
Thank you. We have a question. This one's for you, Gerald. With the recent page limitations imposed on E2s, has Joorney been doing anything to reduce the page count of their work product?
Yeah, and actually a good question. So yes, we certainly are aware, and we can always tailor the business plans to the specific page requirements. We won't sacrifice any, of course, key elements of the specific, we'll say, E2 information that they need. We'll just take away any kind of extra margins, any extra images, condense it down, take away any extra information. But again, not sacrifice any key information needed for the E2. So this is quite common. We know that there's many embassies and consulates out there that have page limits. So, and we can also kind of shrink down the graphs that we create. So we can even get it down to 5 pages, 3 pages if needed.
Exactly. And these days, that's becoming more and more important, right? Okay, we have another question. Are there any industries or types of franchises that immigration officers are starting to look at more critically or consider a higher risk?
I guess anything that's like cannabis, CBD related.
Okay.
If anything that's like detrimental to the social good, I'm not saying CBD is. Cannabis, it's debatable who you ask. But I would just be wary of certain things that could be like a potential social stigma.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense. Play it safe.
Yeah.
investment wise, business wise. We have a question about job creation. How do you approach proving job creation when a franchise only requires a few employees to operate?
Job when if the franchise like doesn't need any employees, it's probably not a good fit for the E2. Like if other franchisees in the system just have one employee after 5 years, and it doesn't make sense to open up multiple locations of that set franchise, probably not really a good E2 visa franchise.
Exactly.
We have some businesses that you could have like 3 employees but 30 contractors, and that's a great E2 visa business.
Wonderful. Last question. Does a client have to be an entrepreneur to be eligible for the E2, or can purchasing a franchise in the US be their first entrepreneurial endeavor?
No, yeah, it can be the first time. I would say like our Canadian clients, about half of them are first-time entrepreneurs.
Okay. That's
They usually have had
great
success
news.
before though. So
Exactly.
it's easier, buying a franchise. Is it going to make you successful? No. Does it provide a pathway to be successful? Yes. If you already had prior professional success, it'll be easier.
Exactly. Definitely. Okay, so I hope this was very beneficial for all our attendees and people who registered who might see the recording after. Basically, on behalf of Joorney, what we're trying to do is give options to those Canadian professionals that are feeling limited in the Canadian programs and business immigration industry at this point. So if you're interested in providing more options to your clients, especially the E2, as Patrick mentioned, they're a one-stop shop. You can reach out and find out what the best way to work with your clients would be. So thank you so much, Patrick, for being here.
Thank
We're
you.
really
And Gerald
happy
for having me
being
on.
partners. Yes, definitely. We've been partners for so many years. We're really happy about that. So I hope we can also get some Canadian professionals interested in the US market and doing things together with the franchise.
For sure. I think a good call to action would be like if you're an individual Canadian that dialed in to sign up on the client application. And then if you're an agent that you have individuals interested in moving to the US, I'm happy to provide my direct calendar link to set up, a 30-minute call next week to see how we can help you, and we can set up like a referral agreement and arm you with material so you can basically work with us to have another revenue stream for your practice.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patrick. Did you share that on the chat or?
So I see that Julia posted a few times a client application, and then I'm just sharing now our my meeting link. So if anyone wants to schedule a time to connect with me, learn more about what we do, and if you think that in the next month or two you have a high likelihood of having a potential E2 visa prospect, we'd love to jump on the phone, set up a Teams call.
Thank you, Patrick. And thank you, Gerald, also for being here with us and sharing all your knowledge about business plans as well. Thank you both. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Thank you all.
Next time.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.